And I know exactly what we should name it.
Now we all know where this is going.
And the new name has just been announced. Balls Hot Dogs.
No.
To be fair, this would probably
What it is, guys, it's your boy BlastphamousHD. Now, I love South Park. Grew up on the stuff. With that being said, I probably learned a lot of hilariously horrifying life lessons from watching so much South Park as a child. And today, we are going to check out 2 of the episodes that teach us those type of life lessons. South Park episode about corporate greed and work ethic. Let's do this.
Is it impossible to work with millennials or Gen Z nowadays?
No.
Or do boomers all just like to complain about the newest generation to feel cool?
Metro Boomin, make it boom.
South Park says it is, and they're not wrong at its core. This is what Season 26, Episode 5, Dick and Boss is all about. Matt and Trey have tackled the issues surrounding today's jobs market from many angles, and a lot of their lampooning was spot on. We're going through the episode and answering all the big questions, like, are mental health days a real thing? How bad is the current job market actually? And finally, is the newest generation of workers just entitled and lazy, or do they actually have valid concerns?
Clean shop.
That is Butters, a 10-year-old boy who got a job working at an ice cream shop. Something he can do because of the great resignation labor shortage, where businesses are now struggling to find people so they can take whatever they can get, even if that means hiring a kid, with parents' permission, of course.
That is messed up.
According to Cartman. But not because Butters is too young for a job, it's because Butters has a job and Eric does not.
I want a job.
To which Kyle rightfully points out,
You wouldn't last 4 hours on a job, fat ass.
Cartman is probably an employer's worst nightmare, which we'll have to see later. First, he checks Kyle's privilege and points out that it's easy for him to say, as he lives in a nice house and Eric is still living in a hot dog.
It's not fair that some people in our country are given the opportunity for employment while others aren't.
Cartman goes home pointing out to his mom that their house is not a place to raise a child, and he is the man of the house and needs to be the one making money. And there's only one solution.
You have to let me go find a job, Mom.
Eric's mom also agrees with Kyle that he wouldn't last 4 hours at a job, and after being called the Jew by Eric, she caves in and lets him have a job so he can get a healthy reality check. To which he then shows up at Butters' workplace.
Hey, Butters, I'm here for my job.
Much to Butters' surprise. You see, Cartman is not here because he actually wants a job. He just wants money, does not want to work. Just like the Gen Z, according to South Park, and employers across various industries. So what's wrong with hiring Gen Z? A lot. First, let's get to one of the most obvious ones, salary. With the current inflation and cost of living, which have increased to absurd levels in some places, Gen Z wants to be paid a livable wage. Most employers like money, however. They don't like paying more than minimum wage, especially not for a candidate that has unrealistic
Nowadays.
salary expectations and doesn't have the optimal qualifications for the job, which is also a problem. From an employer's point of view, this type of candidate is more likely to hop on a new opportunity given it pays more than their current job. An employer would prefer employees that will stay there for the long run and are worth investing time and money into. Next to that, companies have changed massively over the years. The school system remains relatively the same, meaning there is a mismatch between skills. Gen Z is also disproportionately equipped with digital skills and not enough with hands-on skills. It's why many practical workers earn more in their field than these highly educated thinkers do, simply because they're capable of doing something with their hands instead of bogus creative work. Then there is diversity and inclusion. Let me tell you, whenever a blue-haired woman walks into a job interview, you know HR is having a heart attack. Employers just want someone that best fits the position. They don't want a greasy, overweight neckbeard sitting at the reception desk to be the first impression of their company. They want a cute, sympathetic hottie with big boobs.
Some of us like it small. That's fine. Understandable. But I like it big.
Even if the greasy neckbeard would have better qualifications, they could pick the cute hottie simply because it's within the best interests of the company. It's not that employers are against diversity or inclusion, but everything that comes with it after that. It's like a ticking time bomb. It starts small with ignoring the dress code because they want to express themselves and getting Greg fired because he misspelled ginger in the group chat, but quickly turns to striking in the lunchroom because Harry was eating meat and they insist the workplace should become vegan and gluten-free from now on. Employers don't want to dedicate resources to it as it's not earning them money. That's why they'd rather avoid these employees. But there's more priorities millennials and Gen Z have. It even gets worse, as we'll see in South Park.
Butters, can you vouch for him? Is he trustworthy and...
After hesitating for a bit, Butters vouches for Eric and Cartman gets his first job. Butters starts training him.
Alright, Eric, so there's 3 types of ice cream. Waffle cone, sugar cone, and cups.
And Eric demonstrates the work ethic of his generation by asking just the right questions.
And when do we get to have breaks?
From this moment onward, it is obvious Eric does not want to work.
Okay, Eric, can you scoop out some coconut almond fudge?
Why?
Now, Eric is not winning any Employee of the Month awards, but the work environment will soon change because of Butters' attitude.
'Cause it's your job, Eric.
Whoa, Butters. Let's not make this a toxic work environment, okay?
After being asked to do the very bare minimum, Eric, a true Gen Zer, calls the environment toxic. So what is a toxic work environment? Initially, the term toxic environment was literal, until 1989 when some boomers started complaining using the term as a metaphor. It defined a toxic workplace as those featuring conflict among roles, obscure goals and values, aggressive communication, and scenarios in which staff are used like material resources. It slowly became ubiquitous, but really took off with the #MeToo movement. Now, toxic work environments have probably existed all throughout history. They came in different shapes and sizes, but with all the emancipation going on in the last century, morals changed and so did work environments, leading to new standards. According to a survey, about 88% of the 19 to 34-year-olds have experienced a toxic work environment. 90% of the 35 to 44-year-olds have experienced it, but only 79% of 45-plus-year-olds have experienced it. That's about a 20% difference for people that have worked longer in their lives, only to have experienced it less. Does that prove that Gen Z and millennials are way more easily agitated than boomers? Not necessarily, as a lot of other factors play a role, like how boomers value loyalty more to an employer, meaning they could have experienced less work environments. It could also be that boomers are more tolerant to toxic work environments. Whatever party you ask will just blame it on the other. I personally think there's some truth to both. Apart from that, there is something else that has been made up by Gen Z and millennials that didn't impact boomers back in the day, which we see happening in South Park.
Eric, you can't just sit there at a table.
Eric decided he needs to take a small break from work, and he can. Because it's Monday. So why don't young people like to work on Monday? Well...
So haven't you heard of Bare Minimum Mondays? It's a thing that young people have created because we care about our mental health.
Are mental health days really a thing? Well, it is according to the internet. I couldn't find any laws about it. It usually depends on the PTO policies, which are vastly different from one company to another. Now, I'm not saying these mental health days are bad. It's pretty good that young people show that they care about their own personal well-being. As mental health problems have become an increased problem over the last years, it affects about 1 in 5 people worldwide. So chances are you could have experienced something yourself as well. A psychopathology study by the American Psychological Association reveals that over the last few decades, there has been an increase in demand for care. Economic stressors, the global pandemic, and population growth are all considered contributing factors for the increase in mental health disorders. But Eric does not care about any of those studies. He's abusing the system and morals society has implemented to deal with the global mental health pandemic, which reminds me of the time I was working my first job in a small convenience store. We were only allowed a 15-minute break on our 4-hour shifts, which was very strictly enforced. Unless you were smoking. People that went for a cigarette were given a chance to do so outside of their breaks. It was massively unfair to the others who weren't allowed to take breaks merely because they didn't smoke. You can probably guess what started happening after that, as it was a system that got abused pretty easily. Eric loves that. It's another system he can abuse, much like another system that has become the norm at some companies since 2019. Eric continues being a terrible employee and doesn't return to work from his break. At this point, a kid delivers a laptop to Butters. To no one's surprise, it's Eric.
Hey, Butters!
He's working from home, even though he's working at an ice cream shop, much to the surprise of the manager as well. Not even touching on the subject of Eric laying on the couch with a bag of crisps, well, he's not feeling well. After the pandemic, a lot of people wanted to work from home, and rightfully so. I've always loved working from home, even if it's just 1 or 2 days a week. It allows me to do my laundry, vacuum the living room, run some errands, and maybe go to the gym outside of those busy hours. All while still being paid for sometimes moving my mouse so I appear online to other coworkers. It's even better to start a meeting with just yourself so that you appear to be in a meeting, where no one else will bother you and won't be surprised if you don't reply the whole day. You were in a meeting after all. There is another side to this though. Working from home also incentivizes me to be more productive to prove to my boss that I'm able to work without his direct supervision. There were also less distractions as I wasn't chatting up my coworkers anymore. If I do the same or even more work when working from home and do it even quicker, why would it be a problem? It all boils down to oversight and control over employees' work and when they are not physically present in the office. They just love micromanaging. Does that mean employees working from home are less productive? Not necessarily. There are many studies claiming that they are more productive. There are also studies claiming it's about 10 to 20% less productive. We will never know if companies have paid to manipulate these studies to enforce their own rules, so you can decide for yourself. Besides that, there's also massive amounts of money involved. Companies either own their office buildings or they have a long-term lease which they can't break. If you have a 10-year lease on a building, you still have to pay rent every single month, even if the office is empty. If you break the lease, you still have to pay out of the rest of your contract. So companies are forcing employees back to the office to make sure they still get some value for the money they're spending on rent or building maintenance. Then there are also government subsidies. Companies like Amazon gets tax breaks from state and city governments to build offices in a city. State and city governments expect those offices to be filled with people who are spending their money in the local coffee shops, restaurants, etc. If those people aren't doing that because they're working from home, the tax breaks get withdrawn and companies are forced to pay millions of dollars. So they force employees back to the office to retain their tax breaks and avoid any penalty clauses in their contracts with city governments. Just like Cartman is forced back to work after twisting both mental health days and working from home privileges into a running joke, or, well, Cartman being his usual self is just complaining again.
You know what's total bullcrap, Butters? It's how much money the owner of this place is making while we're out here busting our asses.
Despite Cartman not doing a minute of work and being lazy on his boss's dime, he leaves Butters to do all the work and reaches his breaking point. Cartman decides he wants to become an entrepreneur and wouldn't want to be working for a boss anymore, which is also peak Gen Z behavior, and there's several reasons for it. Many Gen Zers and younger audiences are looking towards entrepreneurial opportunities as a more attractive career path. And I'm not just talking about the OnlyFans models who are in it for the money. This generation values independence and flexibility in their work life, often prioritizing work-life balance and the ability to control their own schedules so they can hop on GTA 6 once it finally releases in 2040. A further motivation for young entrepreneurs is the desire to make a positive impact in their community. Or perhaps not even just a positive impact on their community, but to flex on their Instagrams. Think about it. We're surrounded by luxury cars, mansions, and lavish lifestyles on Instagram. It's almost like propaganda that is being pushed in front of everyone's eyes. It's creating a desire to live such a lifestyle with many influencers claiming they make millions being an entrepreneur who are taken as inspiration. The biggest facade is, most are just fake. They're pretending to be rich so you buy their course, which will actually make them rich. Besides that, 72% of Gen Zers believe times have been economically tougher for them than for earlier generations, making them believe they need to be entrepreneurial to earn more to cover basic expenses like housing, groceries, and Fortnite game passes. There are claims that Gen Z is actually the first generation in about 70 years to be worse off than the previous one, but then again it's highly politicized and sufficiently subjective that it's really easy to make the data fit nearly any argument you want to make. Let me know what you guys think by sharing your thoughts in the comments below. With his newfound entrepreneurial drive, Eric turns to one of his most trusted friends to start a business together.
Kenny, you're not gonna believe this, but I just quit my job.
You heard it, girl?
He explains to Kenny he got fed up with working his fingers to the bone for some lazy piece of bleep owner, and came to the genius idea of opening a restaurant with Kenny. And he's found just the location. That, of course, is Butters. It takes a little bit of convincing, but after a little while, Butters is on board as an investor.
And I know exactly what we should name it.
Now we all know where this is going.
And the new name has just been announced. Dick and Bo's Hot Dogs.
To be fair, this would probably be a hit on TikTok and Instagram as well, if someone opened a hot dog stand with that name. It's a hit with Kenny and Eric as well.
He said it! We got him to say Dick and Bo's!
And it doesn't just stop there. Eric is a marketing genius, and his hot dogs have a nice signature smiley face below them, accompanied by a fitting slogan.
Let Dick and Balls put a smile on your buns.
What?
Now, like a true investor, Butters comes in angry about the name, noticing Cartman and Kenny are just playing around and spending his investor money on some expensive dinners and shirts that say business owner. Much like those influencers I talked about earlier who would rather talk about being a business owner than actually doing any work. But unlike those course sellers, Dick and Boss actually has some potential to it. The unnecessary renovations start happening around Cartman's house, and everything seems to be going according to plan. Meanwhile, Butters goes home and gets scolded by his parents for not having any money in his bank account anymore. There could only be one reason for this, according to his dad. Feeling betrayed, Butters calls Cartman to see what's up. Eric is, of course, enjoying the whole new playground his house has become, still not moving a finger. Initially, Cartman believes reopening the Dick and Boss restaurant is going to be an easy task. He feels confident that his entrepreneurial spirit will lead to success, even promising Butters that everything will work out. Butters, skeptical and fed up, challenges Cartman to just get it over with, pushing him to open the business and see what happens. Cartman agrees and will start hiring, starting tomorrow. Only to find out he's about to get a taste of his own medicine.
What the hell is going on? Why is nobody showing up?
The lack of candidates leads Cartman to confront a teenager passing by, asking if he wants to work for minimum wage, which he doesn't. Cue the boomerang.
That's because your generation is lazy! You got all comfy during the pandemic, nobody knows how to work anymore!
So is the newest generation actually that lazy and entitled? Millennials and Gen Z can be very lazy, and lots of them are the employees who slack off or make TikToks in the bathroom during their breaks. But it's definitely not all of them, as we see with the current rise of the hustle culture where relentless work and productivity is glorified. We all like to bash on generations that aren't our own. Millennials laugh at boomers for their leather phone cases that double as wallets. Boomers say millennials are whiny wokey-cokies who spend all their money on avocado toast so now they can't buy houses. And of course, millennials and boomers accuse Gen Z of being entitled and lazy. The thing about generational stereotyping is that it comes from somewhere, and often, parts of it are true. Millennials, for example, can't afford to buy houses and do indeed like avocado toast. But are those things related? It's true that Gen Z talk more about boundaries and stick to those boundaries harder than the generation before them. And it's true that Gen Z doesn't want to do certain types of work. Gen Z is just a product of a society that's evolved far quicker than any point in history. That means things that motivate them are very different from what motivated previous generations. Boomers and Gen Xers often emphasize loyalty and long hours, while millennials and Gen Zers are likely to challenge the status quo, seeking flexibility and purpose in their careers. Thus, Gen Z is lazy and boomers are old-fashioned. Luckily, boomers are also keen to adapt in the case of South Park. As Cartman keeps hiring, Daryl shows up. Eric offers Daryl the position he's looking for. Daryl immediately asks if he can work from home and that he will need mental health days, sparking outrage by Eric.
Where do people get this stuff? Alright, fine, never mind, we don't want to hire you.
Now that Eric is on the opposite side, he's suddenly quick to change his opinion. He would make a great politician. I mean, he tries to get another set of employees, but the same thing keeps happening, leading to his eventual downfall.
It's impossible to open any kind of business these days when this generation doesn't know how to work.
Meanwhile, poor Butters finds himself working to the bone to make the money that Cartman claims he needs. When he finds out Cartman took all of his money and used it to turn the hot dog stand into the dream home he wants, he goes ballistic.
Dang it!
Using all the skills he's learned, Butters single-handedly runs Dick and Boss and does an excellent job doing so. Before long, enough customers arrive for him to make back all the money Cartman blew and then some. Turns out, much like with all the problems of today's society, all you need is an individual that actually does something.
They can destroy everything you love, Stan.
Who are they? It's the corporations. As we all know, corporations love us very much. And if you're one of those cynics who don't believe that, I have a heartwarming story for you.
I like stories.
There is a light bulb at this fire station in Livermore, California. That light bulb has been on for 123 years straight without burning out. This light bulb, your bank account, and Randy Marsh are all connected in a twisted web of money and manipulation that goes back further than you can even begin to imagine. South Park exposed a small part of the web in one of the more cheekier episodes in recent years, Japanese toilets. Yeah, I know, I started talking about light bulbs and now I'm talking about toilets. Why? Well, because the more I looked into it, the more I realized that it's all connected. There is one reason, and one reason only, as to why that light bulb has been on for so long, while all others have burned out 1,000,000 times over. It's the same reason why your bank account is nearly empty. And it's also the same reason why you use toilet paper and buy new stuff every 3 days. If we follow the story, you'll see that reason for yourself. You'll see how it ruins your life, how it ruins your health, and how it keeps you poor, and how it holds humanity back. That is the plot of Japanese toilets. The episode starts with a seemingly petty disagreement between Randy and his wife. The powder room toilet is broken, again. Sharon wants to get a new toilet, but Randy doesn't want to.
We can't just get rid of old Blue, Sharon.
So, Sharon threatens that she will stop helping him with his business, and like a good married man, Randy caves for the 1,000,000th time.
Right, all right, Sharon, you win. As usual.
It's the golden rule of marriage. You can be right or you can be happy. Choose wisely. But that is not the only lesson in this episode. Not even close. This episode is about something way more important than heroically losing arguments to your wife. It's about butts.
Poor old Blue.
After mourning his poor toilet, Randy goes shopping for another one. He wants a toilet that is as nice as possible.
How much you looking to spend?
Well, I'm not poor.
Randy here is in that classic sweet spot that corporations really love. A guy who just made some money and it's burning a hole in his pocket. He's looking for a way to prove that he finally has made it. Naturally, corporations are always eager to help. At a price, of course. The salesman mentions that there is a higher class of toilet, Japanese toilets. But he says Randy probably doesn't want to spend that kind of money, which annoys Randy.
I'm not poor.
This is a clever commentary on how luxury brands sometimes use reverse psychology to trick us into buying their stuff. While luxury brands yap a lot about quality and innovation and all that stuff, what they really sell is exclusivity. We naturally value what is rare, and we also want what we can't have. It's the forbidden fruit effect. The toilet salesman understands that and plays Randy like a fiddle. Clueless, Randy falls right into the trap. He insists on seeing the Japanese toilets just to prove that he's not poor. But once again, that's not the point of this episode. This episode is about butts and how they run the world. So let's get to them.
Word?
Randy gets introduced to the Japanese toilets. They open automatically when you walk into a room, they play music for you, and they even have seat warmers. They just have one design flaw.
With a Japanese toilet, you don't need toilet paper.
Now, the design flaw doesn't look like a design flaw at all.
It has warm water and a dryer and cleans you 8 times better than toilet paper can.
That is going to be a big problem.
You're mad.
But in the meantime, Randy takes the Japanese toilet for a test drive. Randy is sold.
Okay, how much?
He buys it and then tries to justify the purchase to his family.
We're basically the Kennedys of South Park.
Keep that at the back of your mind. We all know how the Kennedys are famous for their good luck, don't we? Randy keeps up the lecture.
Well-off families have nice things, and we shouldn't be ashamed of that.
When the toilet gets delivered, Sharon gets suspicious. This toilet delivery features more pomp and ceremony than a North Korean military parade. Sharon can see that this toilet is going to be a problem. She asks Randy how much it costs.
Oh, Sharon, 10-ish.
What's 10-ish?
10-ish, 1,000-ish, 10,000-ish.
Sharon wants to return the toilet, but Randy asks her to use it first.
Try it, Sharon.
Sharon has the same spiritual experience that Randy had at the store. But this toilet is going to cause a lot of problems, and they start almost immediately.
Oh, look, there he goes. It's Mr. Big Shot.
Stan gets bullied at school. All of a sudden, the other kids hate him. He gets snide comments shouted at him everywhere he goes.
How about caring for something that matters?
Even Jimmy tells Stan to be careful. But why is Stan getting treated like this?
Your dad called everyone last night and told them you have a $10,000 toilet.
So that's it? Basic envy? It appears like it, but appearances can be deceiving. Naturally, Randy is completely oblivious to the mounting resentment. He invites all his old friends over for brunch and keeps asking if any of them need to use the bathroom.
Does anyone need to go to the bathroom?
When nobody bites, Randy keeps feeding them and keeps asking if anybody needs to use the bathroom break until somebody does.
I think I could use the restroom.
And it's at this moment, it's Randy's time to shine.
I feel bad that most people have to walk around with fecal matter on their anus, but I'm just lucky.
Yep, Randy is more insufferable about his toilet than a vegan Tesla owner who just bought Bitcoin. Kyle's mom comments on how expensive those toilets are, but Randy was prepared for this. It's the only reason he invited all these people to his house in the first place.
But for those of us who can afford it, it's well worth it.
Randy is experiencing that high that often comes with a luxury purchase. He feels that he is part of a special club. Research shows that most people get a boost in their sense of self-worth after splurging on luxuries. This self-esteem boost can sometimes turn into a superiority complex, which annoys people. This is what we see with Stan's friends at school. Stan gets mad at his dad because all the bragging is getting him unwanted hate. Randy says he's just trying to help people.
And I'm just like the well-respected guy who's trying to open people's eyes like JFK.
Annoying as it is, Randy showing off and comparing himself to JFK is not the real problem. It rubs his friends and his son's friends the wrong way, but those are not the people he should be worried about. He should worry about people like his proctologist. According to Google, that's a butt doctor. Please pray that you never need one. Randy's proctologist makes a house call because Randy hasn't been to the doctor's office for a while. It's because he doesn't need to. After ditching toilet paper, Randy's hemorrhoids have cleared right up.
In fact, I don't think I'll be needing your services anymore since I've gotten a Japanese toilet.
Randy proudly shows the proctologist the Japanese toilet. So far, everyone has been impressed by it. But there's always that one guy.
Whoa, hey! You gotta ruin Tuscany! I hate you!
Why would a doctor hate a toilet that much? Well, the proctologist can't afford to take his wife to Tuscany anymore because people with clean butts don't get hemorrhoids, and they don't need a proctologist.
I never realized you made so much money off my...
Randy decides to share this fresh realization with the whole town. Now, obviously, most people can't afford a $10,000 toilet, but Randy has a solution.
There are actually Japanese toilets made for commoners.
There are bidet attachments for regular toilets that are even cheaper. Randy tells the commoners of South Park as much.
They may not be Nihon no Stairu, but they are good enough for you guys.
Despite his annoying superiority complex, Randy's just trying to help. He explains that between the cost of toilet paper, doctors, and hemorrhoid cream, a Japanese toilet pays for itself in just a few years.
Even commoners don't need toilet paper anymore.
But in the middle of his speech, Randy gets a taste of that famous Kennedy luck. He gets shot.
Oh.
Who shot him, and why? For answers, we have to go to Jimmy Velmer.
Have you ever asked yourself why we use toilet paper?
No, Jimmy, why? Jimmy doesn't answer the why, but he drops quite a heavy monologue that many downsides of toilet paper. For starters, it's just not very effective as a cleaning agent. There's always a little bit of poop smeared around the exit. Jimmy points out that 70% of the world uses good old soap and water instead of toilet paper. Then he rips into a massive amount of toilet paper Americans use.
The average American uses 140 rolls of toilet paper per year.
Pundits have nitpicked and fact-checked this line to discredit the episode, but Matt and Trey aren't trying to deceive us over here. They're victims of overblown data published by the NRDC, which is a source of this 140 rolls per year figure.
Are they dating? Oh.
The 140 rolls per person per year is crazy. That's almost 3 rolls of toilet paper per week. You have to be a special kind of toilet destroyer to use that much TP. Less biased surveys have put toilet paper usage in America to 56 to 85 rolls per person per year. That's about 1 roll per week, which is more reasonable from my own experience. But it's still a crazy high number. In a country of 300 million people, you have to cut down a horrendous number of trees to make enough toilet paper for them. Jimmy has the figures.
To supply the United States with toilet paper, it takes 31.1 million trees per year.
That number doesn't really make sense, so here's how to visualize it in a more American manner. If you assume those 31 million trees were planted 10 feet apart, then we're talking of a forest land the size of 60,000 football fields being cleared every year just so people can smear poop all over their butt cheeks. Stan asks the obvious question.
So then why do Americans use it so much?
Jimmy tells him none of it makes any sense. When Stan tries to pursue the issue further, Jimmy shuts him down. Americans don't want to change their toilets, and they never will.
Just tell your dad to stop.
But Randy has already been stopped by a bullet. And as Stan tries to get to the bottom of the assassination attempt on his father, the proctologist takes 6 Japanese delivery men hostage.
I ain't going down for this! I didn't shoot Randy Marsh!
Nobody has accused him of anything, but the proctologist is convinced that somebody will frame him for shooting Randy.
No, but they're gonna use me as their scapegoat!
Who are they? The bot doctor shoots himself in the butt before he can disclose that. But in his rant, he gives Stan something to nibble on.
When that second grade kid wrote a story in the school paper about toilets 2 years ago!
Stan goes looking for the second grade kid.
You know more about this.
Jimmy hops away as fast as his crutches can carry him. Unsurprisingly, he doesn't get very far. Stan catches up with him and insists that Jimmy tells him what he knows.
They took everything from me, Stan! My bike, my cat.
And Stan finally figures it out. It was the toilet paper companies. They have the most to lose. A bidet is a one-off purchase. Toilet paper is a subscription. And unlike paying for toilet paper subscriptions, subscribing to my YouTube channel is free. For toilet paper, you have to buy at least 1 roll every week. Even though it's relatively cheap, the costs add up pretty fast. American households spend an average of $182 a year on toilet paper. That cash by itself is more than enough to buy a bidet attachment and leave some change for a couple of Big Macs. Or you could just buy a purpose-designed bidet toilet. Even the super high-end one max out at around $2,000, which is way less than the $11,000 you would spend on toilet paper over your lifetime. And that's without getting into the superior hygiene and complete elimination of hemorrhoid risks. These are the numbers that scared big toilet paper into shooting Randy, in the South Park universe at least. There is no evidence that they're shooting people in our world, and I really hope they're not. And they don't actually need to, because big toilet paper has access to the strongest magic spell that has ever been invented. If you can guess what it is, I'll give you a cookie. Lock down your answers in the comments. Here's how the magic spell goes. If you don't want a man to use something, just call it gay. It's the most powerful magic spell in the world. Straight men will do anything to prove that they're not gay. I get a mid-haircut on purpose and avoid any clothes that are too fashionable because I don't want to look like I care too much about my appearance. That is gay. It's the same with food. I will never eat a banana in public, or use a straw, or put anything remote.
I have no problem eating a banana or drinking from a straw. I don't know about eating the glizzy though. Hot dogs have been ruined.
Phallic-shaped in my mouth. And I will manspread until I die. Because every time I think of crossing my legs, a sound will play in my head.
Why are you gay?
There are countless examples. We never hug our friends or our dads.
No.
The closest we get to show any physical affection is that weird thing you do when you shake hands, pull each other close, and bump shoulders. I can't even tell my girlfriend I love her when I'm around my friends because they'll laugh at me. So every time she says, "Love you," I have to respond with, "Okay," and then hang up before she can ask why I didn't say it back. Bidets have received the same treatment. Shooting stuff up your butthole? Yeah, that feels pretty gay. I saw a meme recently that says a man shouldn't even shave that area because he who cleans his house expects visitors. I don't disagree with that logic. This is a magic spell that the toilet paper industry has used to stay in business. They just hacked our psychology to sell us an inferior product. Randy getting shot is an analogy for this. Jimmy summarizes this when he gives Stan a chilling warning.
Don't squeeze the shark.
Stan doesn't listen. He tries to preach the message his father started.
My father wanted everyone to see that there were alternatives.
The crowd roars in agreement.
He who cleans his house expects visitors. Yo!
And Stan rallies against toilet paper.
Oh my God.
Randy, however, jumps out of his hospital bed and stops Stan from saying anything.
Yeah, so we have nothing against toilet paper. It's a great product, and it was childish of me to make fun of it.
Stan is surprised by this.
Dad, we can't just back down and—
Bro, I got shot!
Randy has been scared straight. He even gets the whole town to apologize to the toilet paper companies for all the bad things he said about them.
South Park, everyone say you're sorry.
We're sorry.
Okay, great. Come on, guys, let's go
The
home.
Marshes return home defeated. Randy gets rid of his Japanese toilet and digs up Old Blue. The episode wraps up here. This is not South Park giving up on the quest for cleaner butts, but rather a commentary on the chokehold corporations have on us. They have weaponized our psychology and used plenty of other tricks to make us part with our money. So even though I've known about bidets for most of my life, I've still stuck with toilet paper because twisted bro logic says it's a manlier option. That's the propaganda corporations use to sell us inferior products. They use our own laziness and prejudices against us. And it's not just limited to toilet paper. We're probably getting scammed on every single thing we buy. Alright, you remember the light bulb from our introduction part? It's been working for 123 years, but I grew up in a house where our light bulbs burned out every 2 or 3 months. We switched to energy-saving bulbs when I was around 10, mostly because of a government policy mandating energy efficiency. But energy-saving LED bulbs can last up to 7 years, so they are an improvement on incandescent bulbs. I used to think that the short lifespan of those bulbs was the limitation of technology, but it turns out I'm wrong. The technology to make bulbs that can last forever existed 100 years ago, but there was just one problem. Building a light bulb that lasts 100 years comes with an obvious problem. There's no return business. Once the customer buys your bulb, they never have to buy one again. So General Electric, Philips, and the other light bulb manufacturers got together and conspired to deliberately make inferior light bulbs. The math isn't complicated. If they can sell you a light bulb that dies after 2 months, then they can sell you a light bulb over and over again for the rest of your life. It's an infinite money glitch. The fancier term is planned obsolescence. This scam is probably as old as humanity itself, but the light bulb conspiracy is the first planned obsolescence campaign that affected pretty much everybody in the world. General Motors copied these tactics and started changing its car designs every year to motivate people to buy new ones, even though the old ones worked perfectly okay. They didn't improve the cars themselves, they just repainted them in different colors and built them in slightly different shapes. That's why cars started looking old after 5 years. They just keep changing the designs until you feel the social pressure to buy a new car because your old one started to look a little dated. They also build them to be a little fragile, so they would conveniently break down just when they need you to buy a new car. Now, every industry has planned obsolescence. The Germans figured out how to make unbreakable glass 50 years ago, but you don't see them in stores because that's not good for business. They have to sell you a breakable glass just so you can go buy a new one after you drop it, and then it shatters. Fashion companies do the same thing by releasing new designs every 2 weeks or so. Once they run out of designs, they start recycling old designs from the 70s and 80s. Instead of buying clothes that can last for years, we now have people who only wear an outfit once before throwing it away. And it's not like you can wear these things that much anymore. Most of the crap the likes of Temu sells is designed to fall apart the moment you wear it. Fast fashion has become a scam. In the US, 20% of clothes are never worn in the first place. They just fill up closet space until they're eventually thrown away. We're basically taking money and throwing it into a landfill. This is without going into all of that human suffering that is powering the supply chain. China uses forced labor to grow cotton that is then turned into clothes by underpaid workers, including children. Then we spend a tremendous amount of fuel and manpower shipping all of these clothes across the world only to throw them away. Up to 40% of clothes are never sold. Of the ones that get sold, 60 to 80% are thrown away within the first year.
Really?
All those poor Uyghurs and the little kids are suffering for nothing. On top of the human suffering, there is an environmental cost of throwing away 60 billion items of clothing per year.
That's wild.
Just imagine how much trash that is. Well, you don't have to imagine. We dump 92 million tons of clothes every year. To make that number easier to visualize, that is a full truckload of discarded clothing that we're dumping every single second. By the time you finish watching this video, we have dumped over 1,000 truckloads of clothes. And donating doesn't help much either. Donated clothes mostly get dumped in third world countries. Donation just transfers the problem to somebody else. But fashion brands will never tell you all of this in their ads. They will never tell you that their crap is filling the oceans with microplastics, which then make their way into our bodies. Every industry is now like this. They all want to sell you stuff that is purposely designed to break down or become unfashionable after 3 days, so you can go back and buy more. A lot of companies start out with good intentions. They make an excellent product like the iPod or the iPhone. But once they've sold it to everybody, they don't go and build a different product. They just re-release the same product with slight changes over and over again. Apple is the biggest abuser of these tactics, but all of them do it. Add a camera, remove a headphone jack to make people buy overpriced AirPods, then recycle a design from 2010 and call it an earth-shattering innovation. Apple tells people to think different in its ads, which is really funny because they're buying the exact same phone that everyone else has is the exact opposite of thinking different. This fake innovation is the biggest trick in the corporate bag of tricks. Corporations turn you into a conformist, but trick you into thinking that you're a rebel. Apple still pretends to be a part of the upstart computer company, taking on the establishment like it was in the 1980s. This is just not true anymore. Apple is literally the biggest corporation in the world. It's not an underdog anymore. And then there are all the subscriptions. It's becoming increasingly impossible to own anything anymore. Everything now requires a subscription. BMW even tried selling a subscription for heated seats in a car that you already own. These tricks are holding us back. Instead of investing in innovation that moves us forward, companies invest more in finding ways to sell us the same old stuff for more money. Imagine how advanced we would be if Apple saved all the money it wastes on pretending to design a new iPhone and instead invested it in developing new technologies. But this is all a fantasy. Corporations are not run by aliens, they're run by people. It seems we're all lazy. If we find a way to make money without really doing anything, most of us would probably take it. So, the corpos are never going to change on their own. The best we can do is stop rewarding companies that play these tricks on us, but it can be difficult. Just like South Park shows, the marketing and propaganda machine is almost unbeatable. We have millions of psychopaths who spend all their time learning psychological tricks they can use to sell you garbage. These
it's called AI.
Psychopaths are called marketers. But we can still try. Start buying stuff that is built to last. Resist trends once in a while. Maybe even try out a bidet. And by God, no matter what happens, please do not buy the iPhone 16.
I don't know about y'all, but when the iPhone 16 come out, I'm probably gonna get that mug. May their camera be so crisp that it's like shooting with Steven Spielberg in the room with you. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to comment, like, and or subscribe. It's your boy BlastphamousHD. Twist.